Airports have a special way of draining every ounce of patience from the human soul, and today was no exception. My flight was already delayed by 45 minutes, the terminal was crowded, and the coffee I had bought tasted like burned regret. But none of that compared to the chaos that was about to unfold because of one airplane seat. I had a long business trip ahead and had finally been upgraded to a comfortable aisle seat near the front of the aircraft. It was not first class, but it was peaceful enough for me to get a little rest. I boarded early, stored my bag overhead, and settled in with a relieved sigh. Boarding continued smoothly at first, families juggling carry-ons, tired business travelers, and tourists wearing neck pillows that looked like they had not slept in years. But then the moment arrived. The air shifted. Conversations softened. Even the flight attendants paused for a split second. Because she boarded. A woman in her mid-40s stormed down the aisle as if she were the commander of the entire airline. Her oversized sunglasses hid half her face, her hair was curled into a helmet of anger, and her heels clicked like gunshots on the cabin floor. She dragged a massive designer purse behind her, whacking every seat she passed. Passengers shrunk back. Babies stopped crying. The universe itself seemed to whisper, "Here comes trouble." She stopped directly in front of me and dramatically flipped her sunglasses upward. "Excuse me," she announced loudly, as if every single person needed to hear her, "you are in my seat." I blinked slowly. "Your seat? This is 14C. "That is what I said," she snapped. "That is my seat." I pulled out my boarding pass and held it up. "I am assigned to 14C. She scoffed so hard I am convinced she endured a lung. "Look, young man, I need to sit here. I get motion sickness. I must have the aisle seat or I will throw up everywhere. And trust me, nobody wants that." A couple of passengers leaned away from her dramatically. I stayed calm. "There are open seats in the back. I am sure the crew can help you find one." But that answer did not satisfy her. She threw her head back and yelled, "Flight attendant! He is refusing to move." The flight attendant approached with a polite but exhausted smile. Clearly she had dealt with this woman before, or someone exactly like her. "Ma'am, let me see your boarding pass." Karen, because of course that was her essence, shoved the pass into the attendant's face. The attendant looked at it for 2 seconds, nodded, and returned it. "Ma'am, your assigned seat is 29B. It is a middle seat in the rear cabin." Karen gasped as if she had just been informed she had been sentenced to life in prison. "Absolutely not. I am not sitting in the back with those people." Everyone in rows 25 to 35 visibly stiffened. The flight attendant maintained professionalism. "Your ticket does not assign you to this seat. This passenger is correctly seated." Karen leaned closer to me, so close that I could smell the artificial strawberry flavor of her gum. "You are going to move," she hissed, "because I deserve that seat." I had dealt with entitled behavior before, but the level of confidence she had in her imaginary authority was almost admirable. "No," I replied simply. Karen's eyes bulged. "You cannot say no to me. I will get you thrown off this flight." The flight attendant sighed. "Ma'am, please lower your voice." "I am not lowering anything," Karen shouted. "This airline owes me. I fly all the time. I am practically family." Someone from behind muttered, "A family they wish they could disown." Karen spun around, but she could not identify the voice. She turned back to the flight attendant. "If you do not make him move, I will go straight to the captain. I will tell him this passenger is being aggressive toward me." The entire front cabin went silent. The flight attendant narrowed her eyes. "Ma'am, making false accusations on an aircraft is a federal offense." Karen froze for 1 second, but only one. Then she began fake crying. Actually crying would have been believable, but what she did was more like a dusty car engine attempting to start after 20 years of rust. He hurt my feelings, she whined. He is bullying me. Make him move. I stared at her in disbelief. I literally said one sentence. Karen slapped her hand against the overhead bin. You see? He is talking aggressively. That is threatening behavior. Passengers erupted in laughter. The flight attendant leaned toward Karen. Ma'am, I need you to return to your assigned seat right now or you will be escorted off the flight. Karen gasped once more. Escorted off? I am the victim here. But the attendant had reached her limit. She called for security. Karen froze again, her brain processing the realization that this was not going her way. Fine. She snapped. But I am filing a complaint. She stomped down the aisle toward row 29, declaring loudly, this airline will regret treating me like this. She disappeared into the back. But this was only the beginning. Because Karen was not finished, not even close. The boarding process had barely reached the halfway point when I saw Karen again, now shoving her way up the aisle with her rolling suitcase smacking everyone's elbows like a weapon. The flight attendants were still helping passengers stow their bags, but Karen acted like the plane belonged to her. She spotted the empty window seat next to mine, the same one printed clearly on my boarding pass. Her eyes widened. Her nostrils flared. She clutched her handbag like she was about to raise it like a judge's gavel. Oh, absolutely not. She shouted, loud enough for half the airplane to turn. That is my seat. The airline upgraded me. They always do. I blinked. Ma'am, this is 14A. It's on my ticket. She snapped her fingers inches from my face. No. I deserve the window seat. I need it. I get airsick. I get anxiety. And I told the gate agent to move me up. The people around us sank lower into their seats, preparing for the inevitable storm. A toddler 3 rows back literally put his hands over his ears. The flight attendant, Olivia, the calm one from the boarding door, came over with a practiced diplomatic smile. The smile flight attendants use right before someone is put on a watch list. Ma'am, she said gently, may I see your boarding pass? Karen rolled her eyes like she was being forced to perform manual labor. She dug dramatically through her purse, throwing tissues, receipts, and something that looked like a half-eaten granola bar into the aisle. Here. She finally barked, shoving the screen of her phone at Olivia. The seat read, Seat 32C, aisle. Not even close to 14A. Not even the same color zone. Olivia kept her voice polite. Ma'am, you are in the back row aisle seat. Karen's jaw dropped, but instead of embarrassment, she went full banshee. This is unacceptable. I do not sit in the back of anything. I was promised an upgrade. You people don't know who you're dealing with. At that moment, a couple across the aisle exchanged a look that said, here we go. Someone else whispered, just let her have the seat. I don't want to miss the connection. But I shook my head. Absolutely not. I paid extra for this window seat, and I was not giving it up for a woman whose personality could peel paint off walls. Ma'am, Olivia continued, still impossibly calm, no upgrade was processed. You must take your assigned seat. Karen stomped her foot. Actually stomped like a cartoon villain. I am not sitting in 32C. She screamed. The plane fell silent. Even the pilot's voice paused mid-announcement. Then Karen pointed at me like a prosecutor accusing someone of treason. He needs to move. He should move to the back. He looks young, he can handle it. I need the window seat now. I stared at her, stunned. I'm not moving. Wrong answer. She gasped so loudly it sounded like she swallowed a small bird. How dare you? You rude little. But before she could finish her sentence, another flight attendant appeared. This one taller, older, and clearly not in the mood for nonsense. Her name badge read, Captain Elaine, Flight Lead. Captain Elaine had resting, "I will ban you from the airline" face. What seems to be the problem? She asked, voice sharp but controlled. Karen launched into her story. Except she completely rewrote history. This boy stole my seat. I am supposed to be here. He took it. He's lying. I opened my mouth, but Elaine held up one finger. Sir, do you have your boarding pass? I handed it over. She scanned it. Then she scanned Karen's boarding pass. Her eyebrows lifted a millimeter, just enough to show she was done. Ma'am, you are not upgraded. You are seat 32C. If you do not take your assigned seat, you will be removed from this aircraft. The whispers from surrounding passengers turned into quiet applause. But Karen? Nope. She wasn't done humiliating herself. She grabbed the headrest of my seat like a lifeline. I am not moving. I paid for this seat. He stole it. I have rights. Elaine dropped the polite tone. Olivia, call the gate. We may need an escort. Karen froze. You wouldn't dare. Oh, we would, Elaine said flatly. For the first time, fear flickered in Karen's eyes. Not remorse. Not shame. Just fear of consequences. Olivia stepped away, already reaching for the phone. Karen panicked. Fine. She shrieked. I'll sit in the back. But I want compensation. Free drinks. A meal. A refund. Elaine stared at her like she was looking at a toddler demanding to drive the plane. You will get nothing except your assigned seat. With the rage of a wronged villain, Karen snatched her bag and stormed down the aisle, muttering threats and insults as she went. But she wasn't done. Not even close. Because as she reached the back of the plane, she screamed. This isn't over. Oh, but for her. It absolutely was. And what happened next would make the entire plane cheer. After the meltdown at the front of the cabin, the plane returned to its usual pre-takeoff symphony, seatbelts clicking, parents begging toddlers to sit still, overhead bins slamming shut. Everything was calm again. Or at least it seemed that way. From where I sat in 14A, I could see down the aisle, and there she was, Karen, fuming in row 32. Her posture radiated pure resentment. Arms crossed. Foot bouncing aggressively. She looked like an unstable soda can someone shook too hard. I should have felt bad for her. But then I remembered she tried to get me thrown off the plane so she could steal my seat. Sympathy evaporated. The engines hummed, the plane taxied out, and the cabin lights dimmed. As we lifted off the runway, I finally relaxed against the window. Then the first sign of trouble began. A shrill voice pierced the quiet cabin. Excuse me. Excuse me. My tray table is broken. I demand another seat. Every passenger in a 10-row radius groaned in unison. Olivia, the previously patient flight attendant, walked toward Karen again. Her smile had noticeably shrunk. What seems to be the issue now? Karen slapped her tray table down dramatically. Look. It wiggles. I cannot sit here. It is unsafe at cruising altitude. This is negligence. Olivia jiggled it. It moved maybe 1 millimeter. Nothing unusual. Airplane tray tables are held together with hope and prayers. It is within normal range, Olivia said, gently folding it up. It is safe. Karen gasped like Olivia just told her she was being ejected into the sky. I want a new seat. Preferably near the front. The entire plane held its breath. Olivia's expression didn't shift, but her eyes said she was about 3 seconds from activating flight attendant war mode. "Ma'am, the flight is full. You must remain in your assigned seat." Karen clutched her pearl necklace dramatically. "You do not understand. I get anxiety. I need comfort. I need space." A man beside her muttered, "Lady, you need therapy." Karen whipped around. "How dare you speak to me?" The man calmly put in earbuds. Karen screeched louder, "I need a supervisor." Olivia took a slow breath, the kind that said, "If I do not get a raise for this, I am quitting on arrival." "I will get the flight lead," she said. When she returned, Captain Elaine followed behind her like an executioner at dawn. Karen immediately launched into another dramatic monologue, waving her arms so hard she nearly smacked the passenger beside her. "This tray table is unsafe. I deserve a new seat. I should be up front." Elaine inspected the tray table. It worked perfectly. Just like we knew it would. "Ma'am," Elaine said calmly, "there is no issue with your seat." Karen stomped her foot again. "I feel targeted. He took my seat, and the crew is siding with him. This is harassment. I will report all of you to corporate." Elaine leaned slightly closer, lowering her voice so only nearby passengers could hear. But the tone was unmistakable, calm, cold, and final. "Ma'am, your behavior is becoming disruptive. If it continues, the captain will be notified, and you may face consequences upon landing." Karen's hands froze mid-gesture. You cannot threaten me." "It is not a threat," Elaine replied. "It is a statement of policy." Karen's mouth opened to unleash another scream, but for the first time, she hesitated. She sat down slowly, clutching the armrests like they were restraints. "I will be filing a complaint," she hissed. "You are welcome to," Elaine said, unfazed. She walked away. For the next half hour, the flight was peaceful. The drink cart rolled down the aisle. People chatted softly. A baby giggled. The usual mid-flight rhythm returned. Until Karen struck again. This time, she pressed her call button 12 times in a row. Olivia approached. "Ma'am." Karen interrupted. "I need ice water. With exactly 3 cubes. And I need aspirin. And I need blankets. 2 of them. And I need you to tell that boy," she pointed to a random teenager in 33D, "to stop looking at me." "He is not looking at you, ma'am." "Yes, he is. He is judging me." The teenager blinked. "I'm literally watching a movie." Karen threw her hands in the air. "This plane is full of harassers." Another call button chimed. It was the elderly woman sitting beside Karen. Olivia turned to her. "Yes, ma'am?" The woman whispered, "Can I switch seats with someone? Anyone? Please. I would rather sit in the lavatory." A few passengers laughed. Karen gasped. "That is rude. How dare you?" The elderly woman folded her hands. "I am 84 years old. I lived through 3 hurricanes and a house fire, but this," she gestured at Karen, "this is too much." Karen shrieked. "You are all against me." Captain Elaine suddenly appeared again, as if summoned by pure chaos. She crossed her arms. "Ma'am, this is your final warning. If you press that call button without a real emergency again, security will meet you at the gate." Karen opened her mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. And then slumped back like a sulking teenager. The plane exhaled collectively. For the rest of the flight, she sat stiff and silent, plotting who knows what revenge fantasy. Little did she know. Karma had upgraded her to a much worse destination. Because the moment we landed, her day was about to get significantly worse. The aircraft had finally settled into a steady cruising altitude, but the tension in the cabin hadn't settled at all. The energy had shifted, no longer chaotic, but simmering with curious whispers, exchanged glances, and the occasional stifled laugh as passengers kept replaying the insane scene in their minds. Everyone had watched Karen go from screaming tyrant to humbled silence in the span of 10 minutes, courtesy of the flight attendants and the captain's intervention. But the story was far from over. I sat back in my rightful seat, the seat she tried to steal, and looked down at my phone, trying to distract myself. But it was impossible to ignore the soft sniffles coming from the row behind me. Karen wasn't crying, but she was doing something worse for someone like her. She was quietly seething. Her son, seated next to her, looked mortified. You could tell this wasn't new to him. He stared out the window, hands tucked between his knees, as if he wanted to shrink into the cushion and disappear. Flight attendant Maya, who had already proven herself an absolute legend, walked down the aisle again, scanning passengers with warm professionalism. When she passed me, she gave a small nod as if to say, "You good?" I nodded back. She kept walking. Until Karen loudly cleared her throat. "Excuse me." Karen snapped, as if she had forgotten the last half hour of humiliation. "Are you ignoring me? The service on this flight is unacceptable." Maya blinked once. Then twice. "Ma'am," she said carefully, "is there something you need?" "Yes," Karen hissed. "I demand an upgrade. We have been treated terribly." The audacity was unbelievable. I could actually hear passengers stifling laughter. Someone 2 rows up whispered, "Ma'am, please," mocking her tone. Maya clasped her hands politely. "Unfortunately, there are no available upgrades. And even if there were, airline regulations require passenger behavior to be respectful. Yours, frankly, has not been." Karen gasped, pressing a hand dramatically to her chest like someone in a 1950s soap opera. "This is harassment." The man across the aisle muttered, "We saw the harassment. You were the one doing it." Karen whipped her head toward him. "Mind your own business." But the man wasn't alone anymore. Half the cabin had officially lost patience. They had suffered through boarding chaos, seat stealing, screaming, arguments with staff, attempts to shove past people, and now demanding upgrades. No one was on her side. A woman in a business suit said, "Just sit down and behave. We all paid for our seats too." A college kid added, "Lady, you literally tried to pull someone out of their seat. Just chill." Karen turned beet red, shaking with anger. "I will be reporting all of you." But no one cared anymore. And then, the overhead intercom chimed. "Ladies and gentlemen," came the captain's voice, calm but firm. "We have received multiple reports of continued disruptive behavior. Federal aviation rules require passengers to comply with crew instructions at all times. If inappropriate conduct continues, security will be waiting upon arrival." When the words echoed through the cabin, "Security will be waiting," Karen froze. Truly froze. Her son turned to her, whispering something I almost couldn't hear. "Mom. Please stop. You're going to get arrested again." The cabin fell silent. Again? Even the baby 2 rows back went quiet. Karen shot her son a murderous look, but the damage was done. Everyone now understood this wasn't just a bad day for Karen, this was a pattern. She slumped back into the seat with a thud, crossing her arms like a scolded child. For the first time all flight, she stayed silent. Maya slowly walked past me again, whispering, "Thank the captain." She smirked. The rest of the flight passed peacefully. People watched movies, dozed off, ordered drinks, and every now and then someone exchanged amused glances about what had happened. It felt like the entire plane had collectively survived a natural disaster. When the aircraft finally landed and rolled toward the terminal, the intercom chimed again. "For all passengers, Please remain seated while law enforcement assists with a situation in row 17. Row 17. Karen's row. Passengers perked up like meerkats. Some pretended to stretch just to get a better look. 2 airport security officers stepped on board and walked straight to her seat. "Ma'am," one said professionally, "we need to speak with you." Karen immediately crumbled, not physically, but emotionally. "This is ridiculous. I did nothing wrong." Passengers burst into laughter they could no longer hold in. The officers ignored her protests. "Stand up, please." Her son looked apologetic as he quietly gathered his backpack. "I'm so sorry," he whispered to no one in particular. "I told her not to do this." I felt a small pang of sympathy for him. He never chose this. As Karen was escorted off the plane, she looked back at me, the person whose seat she tried to steal, as if I had personally caused all this. Her glare said, "This is your fault." My calm stare back said, "No, Karen. This was all you." Passengers erupted into applause as she was taken down the aisle and off the plane, still shouting in disbelief. A woman behind me whispered, "Justice served at 36,000 feet. Could not have said it better myself."